Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. And let me first just say that, I understand if you're totally tired of talking about COVID-19. I get it. But I've had a lot of people ask me in the comments of what if my opinions have changed at all. And I have thought about it a lot. So if you're sick of this topic, I understand if you want to leave. But it's been asked enough times, so I thought I would talk about it. Before I begin, though, let me just say I have never in my life experienced so much hate and harassment on YouTube and other people finding me and sending me messages than when I disagree with Sweden's strategy. I mean, it was crazy. The amount of hate I've got, the amount of people that went out of their way to bully me is totally insane to me. But I guess that comes with the territory being a YouTuber. And I've been told how irresponsible it is of me. How dare you say anything against what the government strategy is? That's totally irresponsible. We all have to be together at a time like this. And the thing is, guys, I just don't never blindly follow any idea. The last time I did it would have been after 9/11, and the United States brought us into the Iraq War. And that was all because we supported the government and we believed them. And so for me, that's always changed my strategy to always be objective and look at everything. And also, you have to understand, being American and being in Sweden is almost like being on another planet as far as the COVID-19 strategies, because everybody back home is wearing masks, they're on lockdown, they're taking everything super, super serious. And then, here it just, in my opinion, doesn't feel like we're taking it as serious. So, but I've changed my opinion on a few things, and I'm going to talk about that. But I just want to say that I always base my opinions on historical data and scientific data. I always have. It's not based on a hunch, and it's not based on a feeling. Simply put, if you look at the data from 1918, we can see that countries and we can see that cities that had strong social distance measures had fewer deaths than areas that did not put that in. One of the most famous examples is there was a parade that got canceled in St. Louis, but Philadelphia decided to still have this parade. And they were one of the hardest hit areas in all of the United States, losing over 1 million people during the Spanish flu pandemic. So I've always based my opinions on that. So with all that being said, there have been some interesting things, though. One has been that it doesn't feel that Sweden has completely been overrun in the medical situation. Now, I don't know any doctors here in Sweden, so if you are a doctor, you can always comment below. But that has been an interesting thing, because one thing I will say about Sweden is Sweden already is already a very strong social distancing country to begin with. I mean, it's not normal to sit next to one another, and people kind of keep to themselves. And the other thing that I think has helped Sweden is that there aren't so many people living together. So we maybe don't have the same problems that a lot of other countries have. Also, there isn't as bad as population density in Sweden. So let me give you an example. I'm from Pennsylvania. We have 12 million people. Pennsylvania almost has 5,000 deaths. They've had strong social distancing measuring. But compared to Sweden, Sweden has 4,000 deaths. So yes, more deaths in Pennsylvania, but you have to keep in mind we have Philadelphia there, which is a city around, I think, 5 billion people, and we have a higher population density, more people live together. So that has been interesting. Now, I do think people are taking coronavirus more serious in Sweden than they were before. I see people kind of standing at more of a distance. And it's nice that they have the lines in the grocery store. I still don't understand why they have the salad bar thing there in the store I'm in town. It seems a little nuts. But they do ask people to stand farther away, so that is nice to see. However, I don't really see people social distancing actually in the grocery store when they're shopping, but that is what it is. But it's nice to see that this is happening more and more. However, I've said to a few people, one thing that I've noticed and one thing I was really concerned about is when the weather got really, really nice over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I have seen a massive increase of people outside. And I've been saying to a few people that I think our numbers are going to go up quite high just because more people are outside. We didn't get overwhelmed. Maybe people are taking it seriously, but maybe not as seriously as they should. And we saw this week that we had the highest death toll per capita in all of Europe. Now, it was only 1 week, and it hasn't been like that since, in the past, so we'll have to take a look at how everything works. One other thing I'll say in defense of Sweden is, the Swedish nursing homes got hit quite hard. With all the lockdown measures in place, we still haven't been able to keep it out of the nursing homes either. So the nursing home got hit hard in Sweden. It's got hit hard in the United States. It's just really a tough thing to stop. So that's in defense of Sweden. However, the one thing that I have been hearing over and over and over again is herd immunity, herd immunity, herd immunity, and Stockholm's getting really, really close to herd immunity, and almost the whole population has been infected, blah, 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 blah. And then every week they would change their tune. Well, no, we're getting close. No, we're getting close. No, we're getting close. Again, though, let's just look at the data for a second. And that is that 7.3% of people in Stockholm actually have antibodies. So that was a study from April. But let's say, for example, that 10% now have antibodies. That kind of seems like a low number compared to everything I've been hearing from the health services in Sweden about how close we're getting to COVID-19 immunity. And first, there hasn't been really much evidence to suggest that, there's really no evidence to suggest that you do build up an immunity to COVID-19.
A lot of the preliminary information that's coming to us right now would suggest that quite a low proportion of the population have actually seroconverted. So it may not solve the problem. There's been an expectation maybe that herd immunity may have been achieved and that the majority of people in society may already have developed antibodies. I think the general evidence is pointing against that and pointing towards a much lower seroprevalence, so it may not solve the problem that governments are trying to solve.
But if you look at the numbers from Stockholm, it means one or two things, in my opinion. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but either way less people have been infected in Stockholm. Let's say only 10% of the population has actually got COVID-19 and it's not spreading as fast as we thought, or not everybody develops antibodies. So even if, I think if you look at either one of those, that's not really a positive situation, because if not a lot of people have been infected, let's say for every 10% of the population that gets infected, 5,000 people die. We're looking at almost 50,000 deaths in Sweden. And then if we're looking at the antibodies and not having antibodies, we would also be looking at an increased death rate. So, I don't know what to say here, except I'm looking at the scientific data, and I don't think based on the 7.3% that you can really say that it has been a success in Sweden. It has been a success in the sense that the medical system has not been overrun, but this herd immunity thing doesn't look like it's panning out the way it should. So, moving forward, what do we do? Again, I don't have the answer. I'm just saying to all the people that, was saying that I'm a horrible person for having a different opinion, let's look at the scientific data. Let's look at this herd immunity strategy and see that maybe the numbers haven't been where they're supposed to be. So is it a success right now? I don't know. I also don't think that a lockdown strategy is a great long-term solution, because people have to be able to go outside again. In my own personal opinion, I think that the answer is somewhere in the middle of, I'll give an example. Okay, you want to go to work, go to work. You need to go to the grocery store, go to the grocery store. But in my personal opinion, I don't think that people should be eating at restaurants. I don't think anything non-essential should be happening. I practice what I preach. So, the only things that I do is go to the grocery store, or I go on a run outside. And I'm happy that I can go on a run outside in Sweden. I try to social distance as much as I can. However, when I'm running outside, I see groups of people together of 5, 10, 15 people. I see people walking together, talking, that are obviously not living in the same household. I see groups of people hanging outside, laying out in the sun and talking. So, I'm seeing these things. And in my personal opinion, I feel that if we're going to keep society open, okay, great. But we should be encouraging people to limit the amount of contact and things that they are doing outside. I think that anything that's non-essential should not be happening. I think that way it's still going to run its way through the population, but we're able to slow it down. Why would we want to slow it down? Well, in my opinion, what if there's a treatment that gets discovered in the next 3 months where the death rate goes from 1% down to 0.1%? Well, then we can use that effective treatment on people and save more lives. So I do think there is I don't think it's worth waiting for a vaccine, right? We're not going to have a vaccine within 18 months. And just so I don't get a lot of hate, I also am just saying that, look, we don't know what strategy is going to be correct. I'm basing mine on historical data and scientific fact, but I could still be wrong. And I totally get that and understand that. And that's why I hear from people in Sweden that say, let's wait in 2 years to see what the answer is. We can wait, but my opinion has changed in the fact that, like, okay, Sweden didn't get overrun in the way that I thought it would, and it does seem like different strategies can work for certain countries. So, hey, what works in the United States might not work in Sweden. But I haven't really seen, like, the economy be saved in Sweden yet. I think it's because it's like a globalized economy that it's hard to do. I buy from restaurants, and I have a lot of food delivered because I want to support restaurants. I want to support businesses, and I think there's a way to do it and still be safe. Also, I just want to make it clear, I'm not judging people either. So, like, if you decide to go to a restaurant or do things, like, you do you. I just practice, like, what I preach. And I don't think that I'm a huge expert or anything like that. But I also don't think that there's enough evidence to really suggest that herd immunity is working. So, is this the best strategy moving forward? Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of people in the United States that are upset on lockdown. There's a lot of people protesting because maybe they don't have a job. And this has affected people that I know very, very much. So this is, like, close to my heart as far as the people that have been affected in the United States. I've seen all this too. So at the end of this video, I just want to say I'm open-minded to the fact that I might not be correct. I'm open-minded to the fact that, yeah, okay, Sweden's strategy might be the best. But I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that currently. And I think it's okay to have a different opinion without facing so much harassment and things like that. Just look at the evidence. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying that for me, I need to have evidence to back things up. And I haven't seen enough of it yet to completely change my mind. I'm open-minded to the fact that Sweden hasn't been hit as hard. I'm open-minded to the fact that maybe this death rate is a little bit lower than what we originally thought, which is 2%. Maybe it's closer to 1%. We'll have to wait and see. So I will continue to have an open mind. I will continue to look at things objectively. And, hopefully Sweden's right in the end. That's all I'll say. But currently, I've changed my opinion as far as Sweden getting overrun, but not as far as this strategy. I still don't believe this strategy is the greatest strategy. All right, guys. Hopefully I don't get as much hate for this one, but I'll see you in the next video. Hey, då!